Hey, you. Welcome back to the channel. And today we want to talk Andrew Yang, deal a little bit with his views on immigration, some of the social issues abound in the country, and how Andrew Yang is going to deal with that, and some of the memes that have been going around about Andrew Yang. Are they positive? Are they negative? And so we're going to try to take some of those things apart. So, Andrew Yang's campaign so far when it deals with immigration. Many different viewpoints have uh, been put out there as far as what they think about Andrew Yang's view on that. And so, from what I understand about Andrew Yang's view on immigration, it is first off, he does plan to strengthen the southern border. Now, he's different from Donald Trump in that he doesn't need to build a huge wall or anything like that, like the Berlin, the what was it called, the Iron Curtain, the Berlin Wall, right? He doesn't need to do those things. But his view on immigration, as far as the positives that come out of immigration, and that immigration isn't the problem with the job economy, but it is automation and robotics, right? That will be that problem. But as far as what immigration does to America, and these are statistics I was able to get from uh, how many PhDs are in America that come over from a variety of countries. And I believe it was something like 68,000 PhDs in America as a product of immigration, making the United States the country with the most PhDs in it. Germany coming up in second place with 20 some thousand odd PhDs. And I don't have. I was looking for that screen in front of me, but I can't seem to find it. But uh, it's along those lines. But the United States is the biggest country, or is the country with the most PhDs in it, and this is very important because the obviously the more PhDs you have, the more smarter people we have that immigrate from around the world, who want to be American citizens, who want to be a part of America. That if they return back to their countries with all of this information and knowledge, then it doesn't benefit the United States. Right now, they can take that knowledge and they can take all of these great breakthroughs they may have one day, and it's the other nations are the benefactors of that, right? And so that's why part of why Andrew Yang's immigration is very much so on the pro immigration portion of the conversation. Not to mention his parents are immigrants themselves, right? So he's gonna instinctively have this viewpoint that's probably going to be more positive on immigration based on where he's come from, what's been immigration has produced in the United States with Andrew Yang. He could possibly become a great president that does a variety of great things for the country. Uh, and so, one proposal, he'd like to give green cards immediately to PhD graduates, which makes sense because we want to keep them in the country so they can use those smarts here to benefit us, right? We don't want to educate them and then send them someplace back else or make them return home. Um, as far as immigration goes with people coming in to the border, so one concern is that people will be flooding in the gates, and the administration is just going to be letting these people in. No, no, that concern that you have to close the borders down if you're going to issue a universal basic income of $1,000 per month, because the idea is everybody's going to be then swarming to get through the gates. I don't believe that's what Andrew Yang is saying. I don't believe that's part of policy. His policy, as far as I can understand it, it seems to be that immigration will go through the legal process like it's always gone through it, but there will be this strengthening of the southern border to stop people from just trying to flood in, right? Um, and so I think that pretty much deals with his views on immigration. He also speaks about the people who are here, who are hiding in the shadows, right? They're hiding in the shadows. They're working, and they have a contribution they can make to the country, but they aren't providing that information because they're hiding, and they're going to stay hiding. As long as there is a very anti-immigration policy against them. And so through these measures, what Andrew Yang is proposing is to have them in a situation where basically they have this role with the citizenship in which they can come to the light, become contributors to the society, declare their taxes and income and a variety of things, and put them on that role instead of continually forcing them underground, because there's millions upon millions of them here already here. And it's nothing you can really do about that at this point in time. The only thing you can do now is kind of make them come out of the dark and try to make it so they can be citizens, right? Um, Getting a bit into some social issues that comes Andrew Yang's way, and how to deal with them. So one thing that's also been happening quite a bit with with the Andrew Yang campaign, his movement, as I like to call it, has been that there are a lot of people starting to grasp his campaign for their own purposes. I did a video not long ago that talked about how uh, many Trump supporters were starting to change their viewpoints and come over to Andrew Yang, but also not connecting Trump supporters with the alt right. But then I also did the segment about how the alt right was starting to use Andrew Yang for their purposes, and they didn't sound good at all, right? And some of the things they say about Andrew Yang serving their purposes and serving their needs, being this type of puppet where they can move their demands through, but they wouldn't have the backlash from society and their racist agenda because it would be coming from an Asian man. Now, of course, none of those things are good, and presidential candidate Andrew Yang has denounced any participation or use in those type of situations and elements. However, to be fair, and I think what the American voters, what we have to look at and what we have to understand is that when those things happen, there's not an entire amount these candidates can do about it. Not long ago, I believe it was also David Duke who kind of latched on to Tulsi Gabbard's campaign, and David Duke, who was once a KKK leader. And some people didn't like that, right? They think it sends a bad, signal to these type people, and creates this negative campaign for Andrew Yang. But what we have to understand is, obviously there are going to be situations where policies work for a vast majority of people. I think in being a good American president, you're able to draw to your attention a lot of people from all different areas of the American populace. But the negative parts, there will be people who try to twist things and use them for their own agendas, right? And there's nothing these candidates can do about that. But we have to understand that doesn't reflect on people like Andrew Yang, who wants to do the right thing and make it good for American people. That people can kind of twist your campaign and try to make it mean to them what they mean, and tell their own story, and form their own narratives that aren't true. And so it to some people, it makes some people go, well, he wants to give racists $1,000 per month. And so that's a bad thing, right? And so that's not fair to Andrew Yang, and I think it's a mischaracterization. But it's also a allowing these people who have these bad agendas and are trying to use Andrew Yang through these negative ways. It's allowing them to win, and that's not a good thing. I also wanted to cover a bit about social issues concerning reparations. Some people didn't like how Andrew Yang's ideas about reparations, specifically to the African American community, and they thought that it should be its own thing. He should specifically address it. And the idea of what it seems to be is that Andrew Yang wants to deal with one problem at a time. And to be clear, Andrew Yang never said that he didn't plan to do anything about reparations. What Andrew Yang is saying is that he would prefer to deal with this at this point in time, get that $1,000 in everybody's hands, get the benefits of that, the healthy benefits to that, the healthy benefits of to the economy, to everyone one step at a time, and then he can deal with the reparations. Now, of course, some African Americans didn't like that. They wanted a better answer than that. And the only thing I could really say to that, being African American myself and thinking, yes, African Americans should receive some form of reparations. I'm not even clear what that is to make a statement about it or argument about it. I don't even really know what it means or how it should be done at this point in time. But I do believe African Americans deserve it. But what we have to look at and what is the situation is that a lot of other candidates who do symbolically support it haven't given us any details. And what we do know about politics is that people go back on their promises. They don't honor their promises like they're supposed to, even if they suggest that they will. And even with Donald Trump, that's part of the reason now why people are moving towards Andrew Yang's campaign, because he didn't honor to them many of these promises. But looking back specifically at the African American situation with this, I would say that if African Americans believe that these other candidates will really make good on those promises, what exactly have they said that makes you think that it will be of benefit to the African Americans and that they will get reparations that are significant and do the good they hope it will do? For instance, if we take someone like Kamala Harris, I believe she mentioned something like $500 to African American families if she kept that promise, right? But now, if we move to Andrew Yang, well, if he's giving $1,000 and they're giving $500, then beneficial wise, I would think $1,000 would be worth more than $500. Now, another candidate, Marianne Williamson, who I like her very much. I would love to see her as part of Andrew Yang's campaign. Unfortunately, I don't think Marianne will win for many reasons I won't get into in this video. But she did come up with a number I've heard quite often, a lot, and that's $100 billion. Now, the problem with $100 billion is, when you really break it down, $100 billion is only a one-time payment of only $2,700 to every African American. So when people hear numbers like $100 billion, yes, it's a step into the right direction to helping African American people. But $100 billion, if that's the only direct on file, on record promise that African American reparations will get from there, a one-time payment overall of about $2,700. When you compare $2,700 to possibly $1,000 extra per month for life, you kind of see the value there, right, between these things. But some propose, well, maybe the 100 billion could be put into some kind of trust fund or something like that, and that could be the case. But would it still be as significant as that to families? Maybe. But either way, that's something to think about, or is it more so interest than just the gesture of the reparations? And if that's the case, if it's just more so the gesture and not based on the money, I'm sure Andrew Yang, will during the course of his presidency address that. I believe that deep down that he will address that, and that he will figure out something fair for the African American community. That's just my personal opinion on it, but I love to hear you guys' comments on it. But even if you've heard something specifically, not just somebody talking good about reparations and saying that we should receive them, but what specifically that you heard from the candidates that they've went on record of saying specific details about what they would get the African American community that would benefit them more than $1,000 a month per month. The next part is, this is a nice picture. I've never actually seen Andrew Yang's family. Beautiful family there. But next, I want to get into memes. Are memes good for Andrew Yang's campaign, or some of the memes we've seen? And I've looked at some of these memes, and some of them are very funny, and I kind of like memes because they just do this extra little marketing push, to the American people. And it's easy. It's like a picture is worth 1,000 words. They can get so much information across in these memes, and it makes Andrew Yang's campaign more popular, right? So it's good in that area. Now, where it's a problem is where it does go back to these memes that are used by the alt-right, that are used by racist organizations, that are used by trolls and people who have very terrible agendas for this country and the American people. And a lot of times you might see these Pepe the Frog memes and Andrew Yang's memes. Now, here's the thing. The Pepe the Frog meme itself is not a racist meme. I've done research on it. It's not a racist meme. In fact, the creator of the Pepe the Frog meme has outspoken against that it wasn't created. I think it came from a comic book some years ago, but then it was taken over by the alt-right. And unfortunately, the alt-right has done such a good job of making that symbol part of who they are. It's hard to separate the two. And so I think the Pepe the Frog memes with Andrew Yang in them, I would think that those are not good memes for Andrew Yang's campaign, and that it can be negative to getting him votes and things like that. But it's just important that we separate the candidate from what American people try to do with this candidate, right? That we clearly understand what he's saying in his policies, right? And we know Andrew Yang denounces, all of those things, right? And some people even try to make claims like he's a Chinese agent. Well, first of all, Andrew Yang's not even Chinese; he's Taiwanese, and there's a great difference between the Taiwanese and the Chinese. But we have to do our research. We have to look into these things, get the details about who Andrew Yang is, what his policies about. People say he's not smart. He's political science at Brown University. He was an attorney. He's run successful businesses, and they try to make it like Andrew Yang's is not a person who's sound in the mind when it comes to economic fiscal policy, right? And fiscal policy. But is that true? Would you really think a businessman who went to Brown University missed the economic class on, on supply and demand and sustainability and all those factors? So if you're a person who is just kind of sitting on YouTube and trying to figure this stuff out and saying things like Andrew Yang's not smart, I think you really need to do your research, right? You really, I mean, you really got to take a step back and say, is it likely that he's not smart and he's done all these things? No, you're probably wrong. But anyway, guys, that's all I want to say in this video. If you like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe. I love to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions about this. And let me put this in here real quick. I always do my product placement because this is important. We want to keep this Andrew Yang UBI platform going. Now, in presidential campaigns and elections, we don't really know what's going to happen. My thoughts and my viewpoint is that Andrew Yang will win. But if he doesn't win, the problem that UBI will solve doesn't go away. And so that's why I'm asking many of you all today who watch this channel and participate in this content to join our Universal Basic Income program that uses blockchain technology to create UBI for the world across borders. This is something that we can keep going and keep a movement on no matter what happens. But I think it also is just a good companion to especially us American people in the nation who want to see Andrew Yang as president of the United States. But guys, that's all I wanted to say. If you like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe. Don't forget to visit Andrew Yang's website, support him. We'll leave a link in the description. Also, don't forget to visit our website, bitcoinnyk.com, which uses cryptocurrency to provide universal basic income to the people of the world. Until next time, take care.